Hey guys, Mercurian here, and in this video I would like to begin a series of videos where I'll be covering some of the basics of planetary rulerships, not only domiciles but also exaltations, what does it mean for a planet to be in detriment or fall, etc. And then I'll also cover what a planetary dispositor is, also how to find a final dispositor in your chart. And all of this is really fundamental when it comes to reading charts, reading birth charts, or reading any astrological charts. So this is really good stuff. And I'm going to cover this in some short videos to make it kind of bite-sized and easy to understand for you guys. So let's begin. So the definition of domicile is the country that one treats as their home, or alternatively, the country that a person treats as their permanent home or lives in and has a substantial connection with. So each planet has its own traits, characteristics, themes, and parts of life over which it influences. And each planet also has its own particular way of influencing us. However, each planet behaves differently in each sign, and in this regard, planets can be thought of as characters, and signs can be thought of as regions or zones. Different planets or characters behave more robustly or more subtly, more boldly or more quietly, depending on the signs that they are currently occupying. Planetary rulerships or domiciles refer to connections each planet has to one or two signs in which its themes correlate, and therefore the planet functions in a way that is typical of its character. For example, the moon rules over emotions, intuition, femininity, and motherhood, among other things, and so is in domicile or at home in Cancer, which is a sign that also rules emotions and intuition, motherhood, among other things. So in other words, both Cancer and the moon explore many of the same themes, and so the moon can be thought to be at home here. This means the moon functions in a way that is strong and easy to understand when it is in Cancer. So what does that mean? So in a natal chart, if someone has the moon in Cancer, in domicile in Cancer in their chart, that means that this person's emotions will be very strong. They'll know exactly how they're feeling at any given moment. And not only will they feel strongly, but they'll also have access to a whole different range of emotions, which other people may not even have, access to that sort of range, to all those shades of emotions. And so basically, having the moon, which rules emotions, in a sign which rules emotions, it just expands on those same themes. It strengthens those themes and makes them more potent, in other words. And so each planet has its own sort of version of that when it's in its sign of domicile. And to understand domicile just a little bit more, just think about what it means, when you're at home. Typically, or maybe ideally, your home is a place of comfort, and it's a place that's sort of a manifestation of yourself. It's a place where you can behave more confidently because you're very familiar with that place. You know all the customs, you know the rules, you know where everything is. And so, you can just act more confidently, more naturally, and more comfortably. And so this is exactly how the planets kind of behave, if we want to personify them, when they're in their signs of domicile. And then I do want to talk about this chart here. And before anybody fact checks me, I know that some of these planetary domiciles aren't necessarily agreed upon in astrology. In fact, some of these outer planetary domiciles, which I'll talk more about in just a moment, I've sort of created on my own, and I've indicated those with asterisks. But before we talk more about that, let's talk about the planets on the inside, or the traditionally visible planets. So on the inside, I've indicated all the signs, and in case you cannot read glyphs, I'll just kind of go over them real quickly. So let's start from the bottom because that's the easiest. It's the easiest to understand if you can't read glyphs. So bottom left, we've got the moon ruling Cancer, which I've discussed. And then just on the other side, on the right side of the moon, we have the sun, which is in domicile in Leo. And then if you'll notice, you can notice a pattern radiating out from the luminaries as we go out and then up toward the top of the chart. So on either side of the luminaries will be a sign that is ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. The signs which are sort of beginning and then closing out summer, sort of. And then on either side of Mercury, we have the Venus ruled signs of Taurus and Libra. And then on either side of those, we have Aries and Scorpio, which are ruled by Mars. then Pisces and Sagittarius, which are ruled by Jupiter, and Aquarius and Capricorn, which are ruled by Saturn. And something that I've sort of created on my own is a new type of symmetry radiating back outward in the opposite direction from these sort of winter signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. So most astrologers will agree that Uranus rules Aquarius. Some traditional astrologers will disagree and say that outer planets do not have any sign of domicile. And they'll just use those traditional planets of, all the planets going out to Saturn, and then they won't use Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto when it comes to domiciles. But most modern astrologers, most modern Western astrologers will agree that Uranus rules Aquarius. I would argue that Uranus also rules Capricorn, and then that also restores this type of symmetry. And then you can go back outward, and then you have Neptune ruling Pisces, which is mostly agreed upon. I'm on my own saying that Neptune also rules Sagittarius, and then most astrologers will agree that Pluto rules Scorpio. I would argue that Pluto rules Aries as well. So some of this is my own personal thinking, but most of it is, hopefully I've indicated which parts are my own and which parts are have come to a consensus in the astrological community in modern times, if there is such a thing. We'll of course disagree on the little details, but this is the gist of things. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of domicile, and stick around for part 2, where tomorrow I will cover rulerships and what does it mean when a planet is in a sign that it's not in domicile, etc.